My name's Phil Holmes and I am Vice President of Strategy and Planning at Atlantic Lottery. My start in the industry was really working in Canada. I moved to Canada about 6 years ago and as a result Atlantic Lottery was a client of mine. I was in the consulting business and I worked with them on strategy and on planning and ultimately asked me if I would join the executive team at Atlantic Lottery. I've been in my current position for the last sort of 3 years. And how I ended up doing, strategy and planning. I have a long background which started in technology and technology companies and then into corporate strategy for retail and investment banks in different parts of the world. And it's always something that's fascinated me is strategy, how you get an organisation from point A to point B, and overcome all the challenges along the way. So that's always something that was fascinating for me, something that's a bit of a passion for me. So that's kind of how I got involved in it, and I've just been fortunate enough to be able to play that out in many different industries and many different companies in different parts of the world. Okay, my company is Atlantic Lottery, and the Atlantic Lottery Corporation, we operate what is a regulated lottery and gaming for 4 provinces in Canada, on the east coast of Canada. Well, we offer a range of products to our market. We offer obviously traditional lottery products, so we have part of a national consortium, so we offer a lottery, big ticket lottery for across Canada. We offer regional games, which are draw games. We have bingo, we have online products. We have also like a casino and a racetrack, and we have a mixture of others of instant products and a big instant business in Atlantic Canada. Well, we operate in Atlantic Canada. We are sort of geographically bound. So the provinces in Atlantic Canada make up, the 4 provinces are Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island and Newfoundland and Labrador. So we offer products and services to those jurisdictions. Our USP is somewhat different. We are owned by the government. So what's interesting is all of our profits go back to what we would call general revenues rather than a specific, some lotteries it goes to education or it goes to sport or something like this, or culture. What we do is we provide all of our profits go back to what we call general revenue, so to help build schools and roads and hospitals and so on. So all of that, our USP is that we're there to make Atlantic Canada a better place. That's what we do, day in, day out. We have hundreds of people working diligently to make Atlantic Canada a better place through the provision of safe and regulated gaming products for the region. Obviously the big trend is towards online and e-gaming and iGaming and all of that may happen. So I think there's a number of different trends. There's trends in product, but there's also trends in player and what the players are interested in, why they're interested in consuming that. Player preferences are changing, they're changing over time. Attention spans are getting shorter. Disposable income is getting tighter, so therefore you have to be very focused on that. So the trends are pretty much about putting the player at the centre of that, in large part based around technology, based around analytics that you can get from the application of that technology in order to serve the player better, because ultimately that's what it's about. It's about the player and having the player experience being the best it can possibly be. In the future, in our scenario we talk about one of our scenarios is a scenario called immersion. And immersion, we believe, will be the most dominant scenario in the future. And in that, we think that, I guess the trends would be what we call fully immersive gaming and fully immersive gamification. So the kinds of things that at the moment you see people playing, almost being consumed by the types of games. Clash of Clans is an example, or Candy Crush and so on. People seem to spend kind of a spare minute building their armies or playing a particular game to reach particular levels. So we see that as being part of that. Fully immersive gaming, where it becomes really integrated into your life, will be a key trend. One which is not really emerged, is really on the cusp of emerging, we believe will be gamification. The ability, each individual through technology is pumping out huge amounts of data about themselves, about their life, where they are, where they're going, what they're spending, how fit they are, how much exercise they've done and so on. And we believe that the gamification is the ability, through big data, the key trend will be to collate that, compare it, and then compete against that, and ultimately to gamble against that, I think will be the big trend for the future. Well, the market challenges for us are really regulation. Regulated versus unregulated is the key market challenge. Again, in our scenarios, we talk about a scenario circumvention, and that's where the speed of the market is moving at a different pace from the speed of the legislator. And when you have legislation moving at a different speed from the market, then you have the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. And when you have that, then what you find is a widening gap. You know, what players believe they want to do or ought to do or can do, they can easily circumvent the regulations. And you're seeing that between regulated and unregulated. You're seeing that between, you know, onshore and offshore. You're seeing plenty of companies out there being prepared to help players get kind of under the wire and over the fence. So those types of things are the key challenge for us in our market, is that difference between what the legislation allows us to do as a government-owned organisation versus what other organisations are allowed to do in their space. Our sector should collaborate more. That's the issue with regulated suppliers. You know, ultimately we all have the same goals in mind. We're all, for regulated suppliers, we're typically owned by government, and we all have responsibility for the stewardship over what in essence are public assets. So when you look at that, if you're in charge, as I'm in the executive team, you're responsible for the proper stewardship over a public asset. And in that, to fully execute on that, we will have to do two things. One, we have to understand where the industry is going. Otherwise, if we can't couple ourselves closely to the trajectory of the industry, then we'll find that we are irrelevant. And as a result of that, you kind of begin to waste away a public asset. So in order to do that, I think it will require greater levels of collaboration between different jurisdictions to get the best value for our investments, best value to leverage our supply chains and so on. So I think that will be something we can do better, and I think it's something we'll do better in the future. I think with any gambling sector, you're obviously interested in responsible gaming, responsible gambling, and that's always been an issue. And as a government-owned entity, we take that very seriously. Everyone at Atlantic Lottery takes that with the utmost seriousness. But what we have to be careful of is being accurate about the levels of that. So we have a statistic, for example, in some of the research you see internationally, that you find that 50% of the population believe that 40% of the population have a problem, and that's an issue where you get some innuendo around the actual the issue. Some of those, some of those issues are not to be minimised, but what we have to do is bring them into the proper context. So whilst there is always a small level of prevalence in any industry, not just in gambling industry, but in any industry, and the level of prevalence in the gambling industry has been relatively stable for a long time, and each of the, I think, organisations and companies do a lot to minimise that. Okay, so we have to look at it in the proper light. So when we look at that, we have 99% of our players love playing the lottery. They love playing the products and so on that we provide. On the flip side of that, is there some problem? Is there responsible gambling? We take it very seriously. There may be some issues at the extreme of the way you have some people who become addicted to a particular product, and that is an issue. But on the flip side, we displace multi-millionaires out into the community. So there is a social spectrum there, and we have to be mindful of all of that, have the full conversation. So it's not just about focusing on one area, although it is an issue. We need to, and we continue to focus on that. But it's looking at the proper context for all of the things that we do. We get a chance to do a number of interesting things. I get a chance to shape industry thinking, and that's really the highlight for any industry I've been involved in, whether it be previously financial services or and now the lottery business. To be at the heart of an industry, helping to shape the future of the industry, helping to shape the discussions around that, helping everyone to understand where the issues and where the solutions and so on are. Those are the highlights for me in any industry, but in particular the lottery and gaming industry is a fascinating industry, fascinating with huge potential. So those things, I think the highlights are probably still to come. It's career advice that we should, not specific to the industry. The career advice for anyone is to follow your heart. If you love doing this kind of stuff, no matter what it is, if you follow your heart, then you'll be in the right sort of place. So look at that, look at what interests you, look at what you can get passionate about. If it happens to be in the lottery and gaming industry, then great, come and join us. If it's not, then don't bother. You'll just be wasting your time. So focus on what resonates most strongly with you and follow your heart. I would recommend people try all games. You never quite know. That games change all the time. I think the average lifespan of an app is I think probably less than 2 minutes. So what you're looking for is try all games, download stuff, try it, see what it works, see what features you like and what you don't like. If it doesn't work, then delete it. Move on to something which is more suited to you. But try everything. At Atlantic Lottery, we're passionate about that. Try everything. Let's see what works. Let's see what people get interested in, because you're never quite sure. Something it may be, you like a game dynamic, or you like the engine behind it, or you like the graphics of it. So try everything would be my advice. as a member of the executive team at a lottery, I'm restricted to what I can actually gamble. I'm not allowed to gamble in our casinos or on our VLTs. But I do play the lottery. I'm allowed to play the lottery, and I do put a ticket on, and hopefully one of those days those numbers will come up. I've never won a significant amount of money, but I expect that to be, keep my fingers crossed. I expect maybe at some point. You never know.